Now it's day 2 at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Big speeches ahead from Japan's Shinzo Abe, Germany's Angela Merkel and Italy's Giuseppe Conte, among others. But tensions between the US and China remain a big concern, both for the markets and those attending Davos. Our Business Editor Stephen Carroll is there and joins us now live. Stephen, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke on Monday. He had harsh words for China. Beijing will have their chance to respond today.
That's right. Mike Pompeo really not holding back in his video link address to the audience here in Davos. Of course, the US delegation cancelled their trip to the World Economic Forum because of the shutdown in the United States. And Mike Pompeo really not mincing his words when it came to China, lashing out at the threat, he said, of their state-centred democracy and saying that a rebalancing was needed in trade relations, of course, as we know from this ongoing trade dispute between the two countries. But we are going to hear later here in Davos from the Chinese Vice President Wang Qishan. He's one of the people who's been charged with solving this problem with the United States. So we will have a chance to hear China's point of view, although it has been pointed out that because the US delegation aren't here, there won't be any possibility for bilateral meetings, those behind-the-scenes meetings that happen in Davos that can often help to move things on a broader geopolitical front when leaders can get together behind closed doors in a setting where they're already in the same location, which of course doesn't happen that often. So no chances of tensions thawing before the next round of talks between representatives from Beijing and Washington. That's due to take place at the end of this month. So we will be waiting to hear what the Chinese president has to say in response to those comments from Mike Pompeo.
Meanwhile, Stephen, lots of focus on Europe today as well, with the German, Italian, Spanish prime ministers all expected to speak later. But of course, Brexit is still a big worry for business leaders where you are.
We're hearing it come up so often in panels in the events in the Congress Centre. Really, Brexit is still this huge area of uncertainty. Nobody here has any better idea what's going to happen with Brexit than they do in Westminster or elsewhere in Europe. They're all waiting for there to be some sort of definite outcome. But business leaders, and of course this is a business event, have been preparing for all eventualities, preparing for that possible no-deal Brexit. And we're seeing decisions being made about where to invest in. A country that's benefiting from that is Ireland. I've been speaking to Martin Shanahan. He's the chief executive of IDA Ireland. That's the state agency tasked with attracting foreign investment to the country. And he was telling me there have been companies, significant numbers, moving to Ireland because of Brexit. Let's take a listen.
Brexit is not good for anyone. It's not good for the UK. It's not good for Ireland. It's not good for Europe. And it has two impacts, I think, on Ireland. Overall, on the economy, we estimate that anything between 2 to 7% opportunity cost to growth from Brexit, depending on the type of Brexit it is. But yes, it is also caused many investors to consider their European footprint. Investors are concerned about access to the European market post-Brexit. Therefore, they're looking to Europe, and thankfully they're looking to Ireland. And yes, we have benefited undoubtedly from that. We estimate over 55 companies with over 4,500 jobs associated with them are as a direct result of Brexit. But it is also true to say that Brexit is now the context against which all investment decisions are made. So I expect that our figures, which we released recently, which show a significant increase in investments and the jobs associated with them in 2018, have a Brexit dividend contained in them also.
Are you concerned that if things don't go well in the Brexit process, because that still remains very uncertain, that negative effect could see companies pulling out of Europe altogether, including Ireland?
We would certainly hope not. I think the European market remains a very attractive market. I think companies will continue to want to internationalise. They will do so for reasons of seeking markets, seeking talent, seeking innovation. There's no one country nor continent that has a monopoly on those things. So I think companies will still want to come into Europe. And the question is, I suppose, what UK-EU trade deal may look like in the future once we get beyond this Brexit process.
There was a big change in the US tax code in the past year, encouraging US companies to move money back to the United States. Lots of American companies in Ireland. Has there been a negative effect?
No, there hasn't. We've seen no decrease in substance over that time. In fact, US investments into Ireland were up in 2018. What we have seen is a repatriation repatriation of profits from Europe back into the US, and that includes Ireland. And that was money that was being held in Europe, and which was always, I think, at some point going to be repatriated to the US and taxed in the US. And we see that process now happening on foot of the tax changes which have been made. I think undoubtedly the tax changes in the US do make the US more competitive, and certainly it is possible that some investments, they may be marginal calls and may end up in, staying in the US or staying longer in the US. But again, I think companies also will need to internationalise if they want to access the European market.
So that's Martin Shanahan there from IDA Ireland. Of course, all those European leaders will have their own opinions on Brexit. We'll be listening to what Angela Merkel says later if she makes any mention of it. But the business leaders gathering here will be particularly interested to hear what Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez have to say. Traditionally, these speeches are a pitch to those businesses to secure investment in their country. There has been some concern over policy changes in both of those countries after their change of governments. So business leaders will be listening very closely to hear what those leaders have to say.
OK, Stephen, for now, thanks indeed for that. Stephen Carroll there, our business editor, reporting from Davos. And of course, he'll be checking in live with us throughout the week as that forum continues.